My family has always been a Christian as long as I know. My father was in fact, a lay missionary, lay pastor in Agassiz in the earlier 40s, but he's been active in church all his life. And I followed that pattern. My mother would say that I became a Christian at age 3 or 4 when she knelt me down by the bed and we prayed a sinner's prayer. I've been a Christian and active that way all my life. I graduated from school and university, UBC, with a PhD in physics. My wife and I, we had one child when we went to Liberia, where I taught at the University of Liberia, and then assisted Gerald Morrison as we built a youth center and operated it there for 3 years. It was a wonderful time of our life. Our second child was born just before Eunice came to Liberia to join us, so now we have 2 children. So from there we came back here and experienced a difficult year of reentry. That was a very challenging time as you put the cultures together and came back and getting work in the field. But I ended up in an academic world with teaching at Trinity, East Kootenai College, started a business at East Kootenai College, and then started the engineering technology programs at Quantum College. Then went into business for myself. And at age 53, I'd been working at this business now for maybe 20 years. And most of my sales were by phone. I would put the phone down and God would be saying to me, people are going to hell and you're just making money. That happened numerous times. And I could walk away from it sometimes, but I got to the point where I couldn't walk away from it. At the same time, I was very interested in Fort Langley. And so I began to ask Bill Gibson, who was the superintendent at the time, about Fort Langley. There would be some sense of discomfort about what was happening there, but I wouldn't pursue the question. But finally at age 53, when I put the phone down, instead of that same comment every time, the comment I heard from God was, your biological clock is ticking, and if you're ever going to do it, you need to do it. And so I asked Bill Gibson the hardest question I've ever asked in my life. I asked him what would it take for me to pastor Fort Langley. And that ushered in a whole new world for us. It was wonderful. I don't know that there was any particular sense other than saying, I need to pastor a group of people. To say, let me get there and open the doors for me. Before I knew immediately what a pastor was all about. When I got there, I knew nothing. I found out very quickly that I knew nothing about pastoring. I started with a series on the Lord's Prayer and then went to the 23rd Psalm and then said, now I've preached everything. What do I do now? Yeah. I'm opposed to seeing churches close. That doesn't make any sense to me. There's a need for more churches, and we need to work together to establish a church and make them strong. And so when I went to Living Waters, the building was run down. The building said God is dead. The first thing I did was say to a friend of mine, show me how to make this building say that God's alive. So he came out and looked at it. He was a fellow that designed the facade of shopping centers. So he knew how to say to people, here's how to come to it. And so he laid out the exterior of the facade of that building, and the people bought into it. And we tried to make the building say God's alive. That started a whole emphasis with me to say the building needs to say God's alive. And from there we just walked down the road to saying that building was solid. Well, I shouldn't say that. It was really run down, but it was there. And when you walked into it, there wasn't room to walk around in the foyer. There wasn't any Sunday school room. And I had the conviction that you either had to close it or expand it. I'm opposed to closing churches. So we had to expand. So we started a process, talked to a few people, and finally got some plans, and then we built that building. 14 of us voted to say yes to it. Yeah. We believed at the time it was going to cost about $500,000. I think it's worth well over $1 million bucks by the time we were finished. I think if you don't operate from a burden, you don't operate from anything. You have to have a passion to do something, a God-given burden for a need. That was my interest in Fort Langley. God had put that place on my heart, and so I had a commitment to say, oh God, can the people in that area find you and have a future? That's my sense of the people today. We need to be a people of passion and burden to say, oh God, where's your voice for this community, for our country? We were there for 8 years. Great time of our life. We sensed that the growth had plateaued, that the building had been finished, the debt was well handleable now, that the work that we were doing in saying, let me start something and move to here was at a stage where it's best to turn it over to somebody else. I think maybe my wife saw it better than I did, but we came to that conclusion that it was time for somebody else to pick up that mantle. Well, it started shortly after we had gotten into Living Waters and the roof was on and the building was secured, and I heard that there were churches around the province that roofs were leaking. And I thought, it's not right that we just live in the comfort of this facility, which was nice, and somebody else have a leaky roof. And so I began to look around and say, how can I help? Because we are our brother's keeper. We need to be that. And so I asked, and I discovered that there were 8 churches at the time that needed a new roof or needed some help. And so I picked one and took 6 guys and went up to Prince Rupert and put a roof on. Never done it before. I imagine we've done 15 or 20 of those projects. And each time we hear of a need. And it tends to be a smaller church where the churches don't have the resources to do it themselves, either people or financial. Tends to be a church where sometimes people don't even think about the need. They just walk through a door, walk through a situation, and, well, this is just the way it is. And all the time that building is screaming out to the people and to them that God can't meet our needs. So we look for a place and we say, let's go and help them. And our focus is to say, let's build the pastor up. Let's make sure that he's encouraged. Let's make sure the people feel good about it. And away we go. Well, I guess the source would be my father and the example that he set. But he's passed on now, but I live with that legacy and I honor it greatly. Now I do some writing myself, I study, and I teach. Teaching is a big part of who I am. And I pray. And I ask God for a burden. Just the other day, I felt the burden kind of easing. And you can pray when there isn't a burden, but it's not the same. And I just felt that God opened the door again for another need that was real in my life, in our lives. And you drive into prayer and say, oh God, can you touch that need? Like the big needs that I see are for revival in our country. Huge, that Christians would live the Christian culture, not the Canadian culture. Too often we are Canadians who go to church rather than Christians who live in Canada. We need to be Christians, live a Christian life. I believe we're going to see a revival in Canada. But it'll become as people commit to saying, oh God, will you change me, change our country, change our churches, so that we'll see a revival. As people get older, around 50 plus or so, there's an awareness in everybody that there's something significant that they can do, and there's an angst inside people to do it. Talk to people that are in that age and they'll understand that just like that. There'll be no difficulty in them understanding it. And in the absence of them doing something meaningful for God, which their heart cries out to do, it's easy for them to get excited simply about a Florida vacation or a golf game or whatever. And that just shows the people around that the most exciting thing in the Christian's life is a golf game. Young people look at that and say, if that's what's exciting about Christianity, if the excitement to serve God dies at 40, why give my life to it? All the time these people are craving to do something significant for God, don't know how to do it, don't know what to do. And I believe that particular group, particularly the men that are in the 50 plus range, as they will get excited to serve God and the doors will open for them to do something meaningful, they will turn the church alive. It will become significant. They will become significant. There'll be a difference in our churches. And when I take the men on these workforce projects, they want to go back. They just enjoy it. The first one I did in Prince Rupert, we were going to go there for 5 days. The people got so excited that they wanted to stay for the 6th day and finish off that project. Now they want to go back. When men that are mature men display an enthusiasm for God, it becomes infectious. You talk to any young person and they'll say, when they see that, they'll say, that's the kind of life I want to live. When they see the other, they say, well, why do it? But when they see men that are excited about God, they turn around and say, that's the way I want to die. That's the way I want to live. Change our churches. I don't know that I could put it in one, but I'd put it in two. I wish that the men of our churches would come alive and have opportunity where they can feel significant in God's work. And I pray that the burdens of God would be lived out in the people of God. The burden of God to see His name be hallowed, to see His kingdom's life filled out in this world. To see a people that is forgiving, not driven by the immediate needs, and a people that understand the issues of temptation and how to get rid of it. The great burdens of God, that they would be our burdens. When I start a sermon, I often will start with John 3:16. It's the great characteristic of God. God so loved. If we could understand that God loves us, deeply loves us, make all the difference in the world.